Hi guys, Thom Hunt in the kit room here. Now, I've been asked a question on my Facebook page. What are my favourite Gunki plastics and what are my favourite Gunki colours? So instead of write a private message back to that person, I thought I'd make a little video, put it up publicly, and hopefully there's a few people out there that might learn something new or pick up some of the tips and tricks, because I'll also take you through how, why, where and when I also fish these lures, just to get the best out of them. So starting at the beginning, I fish some canals, typically sort of Grand Union Canal, Basingstoke Canal, Kennet and Avon Canal, Coventry Canal, the small navigable canals that are probably 12 to 15 metres wide most of the time, 3 to 4 foot down the middle. So you're tending to fish quite small, 1 and 2 gram jig heads, and typically looking for anything from sort of wasping up to some better zander, up to a few small pike, but most of the time it's on the small side. So that's where I'm going to start. If I was turning up at a canal that I'd never fished before and I was just looking to get a bite, I would absolutely, definitely put the Gunki Whiz on. It's a small lure, it's got a small paddle tail, it's a slim lure, and it can work for everything. The 2-inch version would be my go-to. It's big enough to have a bit of presence. There's some great colours in the selection, but I know that even if I'm just fishing for some small wasps, small perch or small zander, I'll be able to get a bite on this style of lure. So I'd class it as a sort of a medium negative lure, because it's so skinny and it's got a small paddle tail. But if I'm scratching for a bite, the Gunki Whiz is definitely would be my go-to, or if it starts getting hard, it would be my go-to as well. I fish it on small jig heads. I can also fish it comfortably on a drop shot, and then the V-tail version of this called the Kiddie, that's also quite good. But if I'm honest, I fish the paddle tail most of the time. Hot fire tail, you'll probably see a bit of a theme running through as I go through this selection of lures as well. I'm not a massive fan of having ungodly amounts of different colours lures. I typically try and go for my reaction bite colours, which is your bright greens, your hot fire tigers, your bright oranges, occasionally pink, and then some sort of more dull kind of bait fishy type pattern, or something that's not going to be in their face so much. So in terms of the Whiz, yeah, massive fan of the hot fire tiger, and then it also comes in some other colours I've got here, which are kind of the brown with green and red flake in it. That's quite a good one. Or they also do one called a Gremel, which is brown with a little black flake. A little bit more bait fishy, but yeah, either of those would be great for me. Moving up, I would go on to the grubby, just back onto the Whiz. They go up to 5 inches now. I've used them a lot in 2 and 3 inch and worked really well. And I have caught on the 4 and the 5 inches, but typically once I get up to the sort of 4 and 5 inch size, I'm generally being a little bit more positive with the size of fish I'm catching. So I'll generally step up and away from finesse and towards power fishing a bit more. So other lures suit me, but we do the Whiz up to a 5 inch now, so I'm quite excited about trying that because that's new out this year. But yeah, something like, you know, the kind of blue ice or the hot fire tiger would be my go-tos. Next one up, the grubby shad. Now this is my #1 canal zander lure. The 2.4 inch is where I start, so that again you'll notice the same theme. Blue ice, hot fire tiger, or there's also a very cool one which is a little bit in between called Chicken Secret, and I know there's a lot of people out there catching well on this at the moment. It's got a yellow belly to it, and then it's got this kind of weird fleshy uncooked chicken colour to the top of it with a bit of few black spots in, and that's caught me a lot of fish. The reason that this is good, typically when I'm fishing for Zeds in the canals, it's murky water. They absolutely thrive when the visibility goes down because the pike don't do very well. Pike are much better in clear water. Zander are much better in darker water. So I really like the grubby shad, for example, over the Whiz because it's got a much thicker body and it's got a bigger paddle tail. Yeah. So as I'm drawing that through the water, it's pushing a lot more water, and the paddle tail has a much wider action. The Whiz, for example, if I give you an example, it would sort of move its tail high vibration rate like this, but it's not pushing much water. The grubby shad, because it's got a bigger padded tail, will be moving its tail like this. So in that coloured water, it really allows those zander to home in on those vibrations. They've got amazing eyesight, but they've also got an amazing lateral line. So when you're in that coloured water, you do need to be using something bright. This is my absolute go-to, and something that's got a little bit of presence in the water. So I use that in the 2.4, also comes in a 3.3, and it will, yeah, I absolutely love that. I typically, we do it in a bigger size, but I don't generally fish the bigger sizes in the grubby shad. I also fish the grubby gun, okay, which is the little curly tail, for perch on canals, perch or Zeds on canals, but when it goes a little bit clearer. I don't want as much movement in the tail. I just want a little subtle suggestion, but I do like the colours that they come in, and this one's one of my favourites. It's brown, it's got some red and green flake in it, and that's the grubby gun with the little curly tail. Moving up, and the last one probably in my canal selection would be the Tipsy S. Now it's quite small, don't know if you can see that or not. Okay, easier to show you on the bigger sizes. So Tipsy S, when I'm on the small fingerling canal zander, I do like the pink colour, and then I do like it for perch as well in some of the more natural colours. But once we get up to the 3-inch, this lure in particular, 3-inch is my Gloucester Canal go-to casting zander lure. And the reason it's so good, it's got all of these ribs, which offer obviously a lot of vibration, a good sized paddle tail, a good width to it. Like I said with the grubby gun, similar shape, it's got some body to it. It's going to push some water and they're going to be able to feel that. But more than anything, all of those ribs allow a really long hang time. So when I'm casting, not vert jigging for zander, casting, I'll be throwing it out, dropping it down to the deck, and I'll be popping it and then holding the rod tight, and it will pop up off the deck, and all of these ribs and this big paddle tail give a lot of resistance. So you get a really, really long hang time, which is exactly when you're looking for that canal zander bite. You know, so Gloucester Canal, that's my go-to because I catch everything from the little 25s right up to, I've had them over 80 centimeters from the Glossy Canal on this lure. And then I do like it in the 4-inch as well. Again, some sort of greeny sort of colour. I do like the orange as well. I've had some pike on canals with that before as well. And then if I'm on some lakes and I'm fishing maybe like Grapham or Rutland, and I'm casting and I'm looking for bigger perch really, the 4-inch is a great perch pattern for me. Same sort of thing, a lot of hang time, and I quite like it in this sort of, it's got like a silverish body and a blue-black back to it. So they're my 3 colours for that. Moving on, if I'm at Rutland, for example, and now I'm vert jigging, I almost want the opposite of what I want when I'm casting. So when I'm casting, I'm looking for a massive amount of resistance to hold the lure up, giving it a lot of hang time once I've popped it off the deck. When I'm vert jigging, I'm looking for the least amount of resistance. So I'm looking for very, very slim line lures. I don't want to offer too much resistance because as soon as I do, the boat's drifting that way. If you need to have super thin braid, 0.8, 0.1 braid maximum, 0.8 is the one to go for. And you want that slicing through the water. Otherwise, if your braid is thick, or your lure is thick, you will start having to go up massively with your jig heads. All right, so thin lures, you want to be able to work that vert jiggy down, and you just want to be touching them along, and I'm a huge fan of the V-tails. All right, so this is the Gunki Vib. Is it the Vib? No, it's the V-Wriggle. The Vib's the one with the little paddle tail. This is the Gunki V-Wriggle. Again, like I said, some sort of orange, chartreusey, green, anything that's going to be bright is one of my go-tos. And you can probably see there, that's one that's not been doctored, and that's one that's been doctored. I like some sort of little hit point on them. Little bit of red on the tail. It's also got some garlic smell in it, that one. And another lure that I've been doing amazingly well on. So that one comes in a couple of different sizes, but there's more of a bait fishy. I'm actually quite happy if I've got one bait fishy dull style lure and one bright fire tigery type lure. That covers my bases. I don't like to have tons and tons of different colours. But that one comes in the V-tail, slightly smaller size there, and a little bit more of a sort of a dull bait fish pattern. Now in the Bass Addict range, we've got a few different ranges. We've got the Street Concept range, we've got the Bass Addict range, we've got the Pike Addict range. In the Bass Addict range, so that's for largemouth bass for the US and other parts of Europe where we've got largemouth bass. There is a lure called the Gunki Fix Minnow, and this is absolutely banging. This has been catching me so many fish at Rutland this year. It's 4.8, 4.9 inches, but it's a small lure for that sort of size. And in particular, this one here, I don't know the name of it. It's got sort of like a greyish, bluish back to it and a silver belly. I've dropped a couple of these out of the packet into my fire tigery type colours, and little bit of that green colour bleeds onto the belly and onto the tail, and oh my god, that has been doing really, really well for me this year. It does come in sort of a chartreusey type colour as well, but yeah, for just under 5 inches, really soft rubber this as well, and you'll notice that there is a body cavity on the inside. Now, when I'm super slow fishing, when I'm vert jigging, I'm a massive fan of flavour, because I think you're fishing so slow that the zander have a long time to come and inspect the lure before they go for it. And any time that you can add a little bit of flavour, if I'm power fishing on a spinner or the Gpump's fast for pike, I find it completely irrelevant that you don't want to add any extra flavour to it. There's no point. They can't really pick up on it. But when it's very, very slow, I do feel that they'll come up to it, and that might just give you an edge. You know, if there's some sort of crawfishy, shrimpy, something that they might find quite interesting, that just gives them an extra nod on thinking, oh, I just want to go and see what that's all about. Always fish those with your stingers as well. So, Wiz, Tipsy S, Tipsy XL, the V Wriggle, the Gunki Fix Minnow, and then probably my last one out of my absolute favourites has got to be the Gpump. This is the power fishing lure, designed for fish when they're on the feed and they're aggressive. It's my number one go-to pike lure. That is the 5.5 inch version, which is exactly where I'd start, and then I'd try and figure it out from there. But I have been catching a number of fish this year on the 4-inch version. Okay, so there you go. Check that one out. Blue ice. I'm a big fan of, like I said, not too many different colours. You'll notice blue ice, grubby shad, blue ice, whiz, blue ice. Yeah, even this one, kind of a blue icy type colour. And then there's basically just green in every different lure selection here, and then the blue ice. So if you're only going to get 2, they're the ones I'd get. This has caught me 2 or 3 pike over the metre mark this year. Looks like a small lure, but sometimes, especially on those pressured waters, those pike are really, really wary of any of the bright colours or anything that's of any size. I think I've been out fishing most other people when we've been going, and the small lures have really, really been doing me proud. Typically blending in as well. So again, that's the brown with the green and red flake in it, little bit of pale on the belly, little bit of brown across the back, the blue ice, and then this one's the Arkansas Shiner. Big fan of that, and especially normally when I'm pike fishing, I'll give it a straight wind, adjust the lure a few times. I don't tend to twitch too much, but if I find it's a peculiar day or I want a little bit different type of presentation, I will put the Arkansas Shiner on for one fact. I will start working the lure a lot more, and I'll get a lot more body roll out of it. And it's the contrast between the dark and the light that really catches their eye, because you're flipping it around. When you're giving it the straight wind, it's just coming past, the tail's working, you get a little bit of body roll out of it, yeah, but when you're flicking the rod tip a lot and putting a lot of action into it, that's the time typically when they're very aggressive, but you can catch their eye and really start winding them up with a lure that's two-tone like that. Also, if I do go for, if I'm fishing any of the muddy rivers, the Avon, the Stour, Bristol Avon, yeah, there's a few different rivers. Sometimes they get muddy, they come up really quickly, and I need a more coloured lure. This orange one, orange and chartreuse belly, I mean, I don't know if you can see it on there. I've had to repair it with a hot butter knife about 15 times, and it's absolutely shredded, absolutely covered in teeth marks, that one. So yeah, last but not least, I cannot give you my favourite selection of lures without mentioning the Red Ghost. I've never seen a colour like this in any other brand, especially when I go abroad. I fish this in the 5 inches, quite small when I go abroad, typically 6.5 and the 8-inch versions of this. It's just a pike magnet. A dark back to it, a red belly, and it looks see-through. I don't know if you can actually see. Try and do it through the light there. It's actually see-through, so if you hold it up to the light, it's see-through, but then if you hold it at eye level, it's got this amazing kind of like blue shimmer to it. It's like a bait fish. Looks, you know, the bluish shimmer you get off a roach back? It looks very, very similar to that. And actually, if I was only going to give you, for clear water, if I was only going to give you one lure to go for pike fishing, it would be this one in the Red Ghost. All right, so there you go, guys. There's a little selection of the lures that I like in the Gunki range, the Gunki colours, why, where, how, and you know exactly how I like to fish them. And yeah, if you've got any comments, feel free. If you've got any lure selections, colours that you particularly like in the Gunki range, do let me know. I'd love to hear from you guys. For me, I try and like to keep it simple and focused, but you know, I'll probably miss out on a few things at times with particular water conditions or species, going for particular colours or certain times a year. So let me know if there's anything you guys have found that's interesting. I want to get out there and test it as well. So yeah, brilliant. Would love to hear from you. That's my Gunki lure selection. See you soon, guys.